call to order the Tuesday, February 25th, 2020, Davidson County Board of Commissioners. Thank you for attending tonight. I'd like to, first of all, do the invocation and the pledge. Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the blessings of this day and the opportunity to serve both you and the citizenry of our county. Please forgive us because often our attitudes and behaviors are contrary to your teachings. And in government, our sometimes difficult decisions can result in comments from those who disagree. We cannot control how others receive our words or our decisions, but we can control the manner in which we present them. So therefore, I ask you to give us wisdom and strength in our weakness and help us to daily follow your example of forgiveness. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forgive me if I do not recognize everyone, but I would like to say that there are members of the Lexington City Council with us tonight, Garrett Holloway, Joe Watkins, and Tobin Shepard, and we thank you for coming. We also have civic students from Ledford High School, Megan Gentry, Natalie Faria, Miss Atkins, or Mr. Atkins, I'm not sure. Avery, okay, and Megan McDaniel. And also, I think Hal Ruth from the Lexington Chamber is scheduled to be to be the Council of Chambers represented tonight. Thank you all for coming. Let me get myself together. If you need to register for public address, you may do so at this time. Okay. Mr. Martin, do we have?
We do. We have 5 people signed up.
Okay.
Madam Chair, real quickly,
Yes.
I think it's commendable that we have 2 of our commissioners, our Madam Chairman and Commissioner Yates, who just came directly in from a DSS meeting and then has to pick this up. I think they're doing an outstanding job for service they're providing. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Man.
Okay. First of all, if you'll take a look at the agenda, let's adopt the agenda. Take a look and see if there are any changes you would like to make.
Motion approved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Got a second here?
Please cast your vote. All right, we have
Madam Chair?
Yes, sorry.
All of the votes are in now? And that motion carries 7-0.
Sorry, when I'm on a roll in DSS, I'm rolling.
Back to
Sometimes I
back's
need,
pretty hard to do.
yes, I have to slow down a little bit. All right, for public address, first of all, I'd like to call our first gentleman, Mr. Barney Hill.
Barney W. Hill. Tonight's first 2 public hearings are both about subsection B as in Bravo of section 1.06 of Article 1 of your zoning ordinance, even though that subsection is nowhere mentioned in the voluminous submissions of the applicants. Each applicant has a different approach to the problem. I will present an alternative that is superior to either.
Our next is Nicole. Hennis, Nicole. Will you state your name, please?
Mr. Nicole Hennis.
Microphone, please, microphone a little
There you
bit.
go. And you have 3 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. I'm here tonight, on issues you may not be aware of, and it's, jurisdictional issues involving Department of County and Social Services and falsification of documents. They are illegally seizing children, and, it needs to stop. They need to follow legislative procedures. It has, documents are being altered, perjury is happening. And there's like 12 other families in Davidson County alone. They only allow you to go to one parenting evaluator, who's a former DSS employee. And at this point, this is second generation this has happened. I am a product of North Carolina's foster care system. My mom fought the system for 11 years. No one is protecting the rights of, the parents nor the children in this county. We have the right to due process, effective counsel. We are standing up in court telling that we're not having effective counsel. We're being denied access to effective counsel as indigent parents. The judges are allowing cases to proceed without effective counsel. You call Raleigh DHHS and inform them of what's going on. They admit that paper's altered, and they fail to do anything about it. They're locking our special needs children in institutions for up to a year at a time. My son has been institutionalized for the last 10 months due to autism. He has never had to be institutionalized in his life. A lack of foster parents. Institutionalizing these children is not a place for them. Parental alienation is abuse in itself. They are not taking parental fitness into account when trying these cases in court, nor are they going by constitutional law. And it's violating not only the parents' rights, but their children's rights as well. My children have the right, under the American Disabilities Act, to live openly in our community. And instead of allowing my children to live in the community, they are locking them in residential treatment facilities for mental illnesses that they are getting from being taken from their parents, not for any other valid reason. They've lived in the community their entire lives, and now all of a sudden, my children have been locked away my daughter for 6 months. She's terminal. She's been locked away for 6 months in a nut house, a psychiatric institution, and my son has now been in one for 10 months. I requested the removal of my son because of a suspected abuse at his treatment facility, and he is still there. He has not been moved. The supervisors are altering paperwork after the fact. Raleigh DHHS has admitted that paperwork's been altered, but yet nothing's been done. It needs to stop with this generation of my kids and not keep going and going and going. We have constitutional rights for a reason, and no one...
3 minutes, Mr. Hennis.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call Sarah Carter. You state your name.
Sarah Carter, I'm a family rights advocate. I'm here this evening to inform the County Commissioning Board that a huge change is happening in North Carolina. We currently have up in Raleigh an oversight for DSS that is putting together a committee and some procedures and policies, and perhaps a bill actually to provide that oversight for Department of Social Services. We have, for, as you heard, generations of damage that is being done to the society that we're living in North Carolina. I don't know if you've heard of the Chicken Boy case in Union County, but a DSS supervisor licensed herself as a foster care parent and physically, mentally, and emotionally abused the children that were in her care. That was many years ago. That young man has just now reached federal standing in his case, just now after all these years. It takes Department of Social Services a few hours to violate a family's rights, but it takes years and years, and sometimes you don't get that justice, to get that justice for children and families. You cannot separate the two, the children and the families. We're at the point in the state where we have up there proposed that we make families, as a definition, foster families. They are not our families. They are concerned members of the community that have good intentions, that we need to start taking a look at the details of what we're doing in Department of Social Services and the family court system, so that we are not violating rights, we are not separating children unnecessarily, and that means digging deep down into your government structures and asking a few more questions. I was so honored to see some of the members of this board asking questions at the DSS meeting. That warms my heart, because I'm advocating on the west side where a DSS attorney is asking for sexual favors to give visitations to the mothers. And I'm advocating on the east side of the state where DSS is telling an 88-year-old great-grandmother to get down on her knees and beg DSS what to do to get her great-grandchild. We have 6 federal lawsuits against DSS right now in North Carolina. And it's not because we don't care, it's because these are our children. We have rights grounded in by the Magna Carta that came over and created the basis of our country, property rights. But the Supreme Court says those rights are far more precious than just property rights. And that needs to be taken into account. And the children that actually do need assistance do need to get that assistance. We're seeing children every day that need that help. They're not getting it because they're not adoptable. We have come to the point where we are ignoring the details, and we have an industry of foster care and adoption where over 88% of the children recovered from human trafficking are recovered from DSS custody and care. That's a National Missing Children's Hotline statistic. That's been to Congress. We're making changes, but we need you guys to make changes too. We need you to start hearing the people. We need you to start reaching back out to the people that you're representing and hearing their stories.
3 minutes,
not just
Ms.
DSS.
Carter.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Katrina Milburn.
Hello, again, thank you for having me. I'm here to address, some issues about just what some.
Katrina, excuse me,
I'm sorry.
would you state your name?
Oh, I'm Katrina Milburn.
Thank you.
I'm here to address, what CPS families want, okay? The following summarizes what some CPS families, or people that are involved with CPS, what they want, what the families want, parents, to be cared about as individuals. These are things that are not happening in our community. To be cared about as individuals with strengths as well as weaknesses. Instead of just weaknesses and being negative, let's give some strengths. To have more training, to have their story, perspective, and feelings heard and understood. A worker who is responsive and sensitive to the, sensitive to the turmoil and stress of the CPS process. It's very stressful for parents because no one knows the process. Regular and complete exchange of information, to be treated as courteous and respectful manner, to know the allegations and abuse, to have it fully investigated. None of these things are happening. Have services provided for them. I'm a person that has my daughter in foster care due to false allegations, and I've never had a single service offered to me. I've been told I've been doing everything right this entire time. I've never done a single thing wrong, yet my daughter, who just turned 3, is being traumatized. And I'm going to kind of keep it short, but a little bit last but not least, but provide protective services to families in a very complex task. Intervening in the life of a family must be done with care, dignity, and respect. Social workers must have the skills to handle crises without escalating them, as it has in mind, to identify strengths and risk factors within the family, to build self-esteem, to establish rapport, to advocate with the family, community, and other agencies for supportive services. Supportive services are huge, and to help develop realistic goals and services. That's what we would like. That's not happening right now, and as people who have spoken, we're asking you guys to look into this and please try to help. Not stop ripping the kids out of the families and keep and putting them into adoption, spending more taxpayers' money I mean, it's outrageous how much taxpayers' money is going towards foster care when these kids don't need to be even taken out of their home. And it's hurting the kids and traumatizing both kids and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda Evans. State your name, please.
Amanda Evans. I'm here as a concerned aunt for my niece and my nephew being in the foster care system, and the fact that DSS lied to the court system to obtain custody of them, saying that no family members wanted them or could take them. I'm here, and I'm here to state that I want them, and I was willing to take them before they put them into foster care. And I'm also here because what other families are they doing this to? It is in the constitutional rights that children remain with family. It's a federal right. The system is so corrupt in Davidson County, and nobody is looking into it. Nobody is doing anything about it, and these workers are getting away with all this corruption. They have falsified so many documents. They've even lied on the stand in court, and the DA isn't doing anything about it. It makes me sick to my stomach to think about how many other families this is really happening to. But me and my family that's sitting back here, we're here to stand up, and we're going to keep fighting, and we're going to keep on until this corruption stops. As my brother said, we are a product of the system. We spent numerous years in one foster home just to be removed and put into another one to be sexually abused. And look at what's going on in these foster homes today with my niece and my nephew. We don't know because we have no contact with them. They won't allow family to see them. That's family alienation, and that's against the law. Our kids have rights. We have rights. And nobody cares. And somebody needs to do something. I don't know if it's going to be you guys or if it's going to be the guys after you or how long it's going to take for it to happen, but it needs to happen sooner than later. Because it needs to stop with our kids' generations. We're the first and now they're the second. We don't need it to go any farther than that. Well, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to public hearing. Guy. First of all, we have a rezoning request by Travis R. Payne in the Thomasville Township containing 2.26 acres from RA3 to CUOI. I declare the public hearing open. Mr. Kornman?
Let me get my eyes on.
Go ahead.
Okay, we do have tonight a request by Travis R. Payne to rezone property located in Thomasville Township, tax map 309, lot 41A, containing 2.26 acres more or less. Property is further described as being located on the west side of Burton Road, approximately 1,000 feet south of the West Burton Road intersection. The rezoning is requested to change from that of RA3 Rural Agricultural District to that of Conditional Use Office and Institutional District. The recommendation of the Planning Board was on the February the 4th of 2020, and their recommendation was to go with the approval of the request with the stated conditions. The applicant is here tonight. Mr. Payne is being represented by Attorney Irvin Sink. I would also point to you that your zoning map that is highlighted in yellow, this is the former site of a church entitled Kingdom Vision Ministries Global Incorporated, and their representative, the president of the church, did sign the application as the current legal owner of the property. The applicant Mr. Payne owns a business out of High Point. It's, kind of a new industry, evolving industry, but it's kind of re-merchandising stores, but I'll let the, applicant explain that, tonight. But if you would like to hear from him at this time.
Madam Clerk, at what point are you gonna have the witnesses sworn?
Yeah, we need to do the
Yes,
quasi
that's right.
judicial,
It is.
nature.
You are absolutely correct.
Where's your pointer?
We need to swear in all of those who wish to speak.
Mr. Corman, could you reach another Bible from, or, I'm sorry, Mr. Hill will have a separate oath.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give to the board shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Hill, do you affirm that the testimony you are about to give, if any, will be the truth and nothing but the truth? There is only one who can know the whole truth.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. If it pleases the board, my name's Irvin Sink. I'm an attorney in Lexington. Let me summarize. This started as a rezoning request to O&I. And after getting into it and seeing what best options for the property would be, the applicant decided to change his, amend his zoning request for to make it a conditional use and put some rather tight conditions on it to deal with concern in the community, and we'll go over that with you. Just as a matter of summary, the Payne's Group and Associates is a company that involved in retail remodeling is a new phrase that I had to research and learn about. But it involves, actually, if you see at a Lowe's store that may have displays set up somewhere, the Lowe's folks don't do that. They hire somebody to come in and to put all the shelves of something over here, and but he's been working in the last week or so in Texas, you said? In Louisiana. And for Target and Lowe's and doing things like that. But what you'll hear tonight would be that he needs an operation or needs a building to handle his administrative office and his human resource department. That he's the human resource department at the present time, but I'll offer Mr. Travis Payne to give you an explanation about what type of business you do and what do you think your future of your business is going to be, and how many folks you think that you intend to have working for you in the administrative department.
Well, it's definitely gonna take a while to get to that point, but right now I'm at about 80 employees, and I am the only HR department. Right now I'm building grounds to get into bigger box retail, so it's gonna take some time. Right now, the building's just for sale, and this property is in between my father's address and my address, so we definitely wanna get it back in the family for one, and for two, it's a perfect office. And churches, they're going empty all the time and just sitting there. This is something that can be used and won't, we're doing great things around there, restoring the place, and it's an amazing opportunity, but it'd take years to get up to 10 to 15 people. Because, right now, myself, I'm doing it with 80 employees, and, we are going to expand. It's just going to take time.
Now, do these employees are not on this site or do not visit this site. When you say employees, these are workers that you have, that you hire at the locations that you go to.
Contract workers.
Yeah, we're nationwide.
Contract workers.
Right now, we're in Washington, Oregon, Texas, New York, we're all over.
And wherever you go, you have to get different types of permitting done in order to be allowed to work in those areas. Is that correct?
You got to register in each state once a year and do work within the state.
difficult to do that out of your truck, isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I need some help.
So that's part of the reason for, your opportunity to purchase this land. I would submit, the amendment to the rezoning application, which you have as part of your packet, that sets forth, the details of the type of business he operates and his operation and what he envisions for this property. I just want to, ask you, to testify and to the, truth of these statements, that your use of the property as a human resource department, is limited to accounting, payroll, clerical work, permitting, business, and dealing with, the financial reports that you have to do for the employees that you work. Is that correct?
Absolutely. All I need.
And, your business does not involve the, it's not like a temp agency where, employees come to your office and then leave out from there. So the traffic that is entailed with this is just gonna be involved, the people that work at that particular building.
That's correct.
Will you please, recite, or tell the board, the conditions that you, let's go ahead and read that.
I mean, it's strictly a human resource department, HR, limited 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I mean, it's strictly just to do payroll, so nothing like equipment or fixture installs or storage or people coming by training. I don't need none of that. I just seriously just need an HR department.
And are you aware of, how long has the church been operating at this site?
Well, this particular one's been around 6 or 7 years. It's been sold a couple times since I was a kid, so.
So, would it be there since the 90s?
Oh, yeah, probably so.
Probably for around 20 years or so been used as a church.
Absolutely.
And, do you have an idea about how many people, attend services at that church?
Well, I mean, it's been up and down over the years. You've seen it where the parking lot's full of 50, 60 cars, and sometimes you only see 10. I guess it just depends on time of the year and the faith of the people.
And they meet more than once a week, correct?
Yeah, you see them out there a couple times a week, the normal Sunday night, Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. They got a reception hall next door, so they have their gatherings there. Anything a normal church would do. They have their little special study Bibles and stuff on the side.
Let me figure out how this works. All right, guy.
Can I ask a question while, you know?
Yes, sir.
Cause think I'm off track. Where's your physical location of your business? Where's your saws and hammers and nails and stuff?
It all stays in the field. All the employees are required to have their own tools. And the tools are very minimal. All you need is like a drill and hammer. I mean, it's not construction work. It's retail merchandising. We go in there and move the counters around and redo the merchandising. It's not like we're in there with hammer drills and concrete saws or anything like that. Literally, the people show up, do the work. The big box retail stores supply you with any of the materials as far as hardware. It's just labor. You send in the labor, do the work, and leave. And my employees are from every state. So, you know, they're not coming to North Carolina to say hey to me. When they're from California or from Texas, you know, they stay in the area that they're working.
Am I correct in saying that you really don't have employees, you have subcontractors that you utilize?
Employees.
They're true employees?
True W-2 employees. We're up to about 82 right now.
But not on that location there?
Huh?
Not at that location?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, like I said, the only work we do is big box retail remodels. We do PetSmart, Lowe's, Home Depots. I mean, they're everywhere.
How many employees will you have in this location as far as HR? 3 or 4, 5 or 6?
3 to 4 for the longest time. I mean, eventually, most companies like this that do what I do, they average 1,000 employees. And with them companies I know of, they usually have maybe 10 to 12. true full-time employees. I mean, every 100 employees, you need another person to manage them.
And you hope you have 20 or 30, right? That just means your business is doing good.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Let me talk to you about the property just very briefly. Now, the site is, right there outlined in yellow where our laser's pointing, is that correct? Now, down here, this property is rather, hilly, is that correct? I mean, down here and at the intersection of this, I believe this is Proctor Road, that goes to the right, as you're going, I guess that would be northeast. This is, I can't read that from here, but I believe that's a trailer park, is that correct?
Yep.
Gabrielle Lane.
Yep.
And then it goes on up the hill, and then, your dad's property is right, beside this. Can you describe just very briefly the lay of this particular tract of land? Like.
The church land or
Yeah, the church land, like.
Can I see that?
Yeah.
Let's see that.
Punch that star button.
So this is my father's address, this is my address, also on this one as well. When you go into here, they dug it out, so this property and this property used to run together, but the church came in when it was first built and dug out massive amount of dirt and actually dumped it behind this house at one time, and then it goes down to a hill and it's kind of circled down in there. I mean, when you go by on the road, you barely see it anyways, so.
That's one good. This property, now that's a picture of the
Did I do that?
sanctuary. No, he's doing that. Now, with the road then, the Burton Road would be on the other side of this hill. And this is standing in front of the church building in the parking lot, and these are the parking spaces here. And that's the house you live in, correct?
Yep.
And then, this was a pretty steep hill right here, and the church dug out a driveway to get to their tract of land, and it's relatively flat down here. And there's some pretty extensive culvert operations to, deal with the water there, which, I believe, in my opinion, the water's being handled quite well based on, I was there after a bunch of rain, and didn't see really any issues at all in navigating water. But, you got any more pictures, or?
Did you want?
I was just acting on what you were doing, I didn't know what was coming next. But, again, and that's the, educational building that's right beside is that correct? That's the educational building or the reception hall? I call it an educational building, but the church building sits to the left of that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, no, it's to the right of the church. That building is, church is on this side.
Right, the church sits to where the corner is there. And that's a description of the general, location. I do have, an appraisal evidence that we're required to have for our conditional use offer. We talked to, state your name and address.
Name's Carter Stokes. I live in Welcome, 737 Old Bud Sink Road. Certified appraiser for 30 years. I did go look at the property. I went January 31st, and they've already described it very well, because I thought I would need to do that, but it is a rolling topography through there, typical diversity that you'd see in a rural area, ranches and cottages and some mobile homes. But, I looked at this thing like I would if I was doing appraisal on any of these properties up and down that road, and if it was an adverse condition, and I'd mark on my report, then I'd have to cite what that would be, how to handle it. And with this conditional use, I just can't find anything adverse condition from that. So I don't see that it would be any effect on any of the properties in value or so forth.
Did you prepare an appraisal opinion letter?
I did.
And is this?
That's it.
Right here, dated January 31st.
That's it.
This was presented as a planning, and I don't know if it's part of your package or not, but it needs to be submitted as evidence as far as this proceeding.
Do we have any opposition? No? Yeah, we need to roll in.
Conditions.
Yeah,
I'm ready to vote.
I think. Is there any opposition that wishes to speak in favor of or in opposition?
Mr. Sink, have you established the elements you need to have for the rest of it?
Is there anything?
With Mr. Payne, going over his conditions, and we have got the, let me just ask Mr. Payne, he did sign the application, which is, part of the record, and however, he did not sign this amendment, which you basically read outlines from. Are you familiar with this amendment to the application that's been signed by your attorney?
Yeah, I just read it over there, yeah.
Okay, well,
Absolutely.
but you've seen a copy of
Yep,
it
yep,
before now?
yep, yep.
Okay, thank
Yep,
you.
thank
I would like to offer that amendment, as part of the record as being a sworn, or signed or adopted by him, if that becomes a question. I don't know that it would, but, because I certainly have authority to speak and
So-
offer it for him.
Mr. Attorney, do we look at OI separate from the conditional use?
Yes, ma'am.
We do.
Okay,
Recommendations.
Guy, go ahead.
Yes, I am prepared to recommend approval of the request, because I feel like that, the church building is gonna remain exactly, it's architecturally compatible with the surrounding buildings that are in the area there, and that, I think that the, use of the property will be less intensive because he'll not have as many folks coming in there as would have been attending the church there in previous life of the buildings. And that I feel like the rural residential character will be maintained, so at this time, I'm recommending approval of the request.
I'll make a motion, Madam Chairman, that we approve this,
Have we closed it?
Madam Chair, I apologize, but I believe Mr. Hill had indicated a
yeah.
desire to testify.
Okay. I'm gonna call him.
I would like to just to summarize a couple comments if at the appropriate time, either after Mr.
Okay, let's let him voice his opinion.
Typos. The resolution on statement of consistency gives February the 4th, not February the 25th, as the date of this public hearing. The second sentence of the third paragraph of the revised staff analysis calls the proposed conditional use office and industrial, not as it should be, office and institutional. As to, Mr. Trule's question, all they're doing is just moving merchandise from one shelf to another, so they don't need any tools. And they communicate with each other electronically. What impresses me is the thoroughness of the application. Exhibit A cites school enrollment and an aging population to argue that there will be additional O&I in the area no matter what happens to this request. Exhibit B explains that the remerching employees will not report to 4580 Burton Road, and that it will be years before the 10 to 15 HR employees are hired. the conclusion is that there will be no intensification of usage from the existing RA3. The strategy is to concentrate entirely on the subject property and attach enough conditions to quell all local fears within its meager parameters. That strategy has succeeded, and I recommend approval.
Thank you. Before we go, Mr. Corman, before I declare closed, is there anything else you need to say?
If you wanted to go ahead and, take a motion for the, legislative approval of the, and then.
Okay.
Then we'll go into the.
Okay.
You have a motion, Madam Chair.
Do you want to speak with regard to both elements of approval of that motion for rezoning request?
Yes, we did incorporate, in your statement of consistency, we did include, language in there, about the, properties being, compatible with the existing structures, in the area, and I also included policies 1.7 and 1.8 of the land development plan being, supportive of the proposed rezoning, and that the rural, residential character of the property will be, maintained.
And I apologize for not including the statement of consistency. So my motion was included, statement of consistency. Thank you. If y'all just get a little tag right up here that you could hang it.
And I'm sorry, I forgot to add to the chair's motion. All of the votes are in,
Right.
and that motion carries 7-0.
Okay. And now with the, conditional, use permit, you did hear testimony as to what those conditions are. I wanted to be sure that the board was okay with up to 15 employees. That was the maximum number.
It was a reason for that guy. I hate to limit a company as to how many employees they can hire.
Yeah, I'd say we'd double that. Let them do 30. That'd be less people to be there on Sunday at church, I hope.
Yeah, they might go to church while they're there.
Yeah, he could. He might go to church while they're there. Is that okay with you, Mr. Irvin?
Okay. Do you want to make that into a motion?
So
Or do you want to?
I mean, just, we're good with the conditional use of 30 employees.
Okay.
You good with that guy?
Yep, whatever the board, and whatever the applicant is comfortable with, it would still be less.
Okay. Do we need to take a vote on that?
I second that motion.
If we could do this orally, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, and let me just briefly
Go through
mention.
the rest of them and see if we got any changes.
Go ahead.
We got a motion. Do we have a second?
Well, he's gonna read through the
Yeah.
rest of them before we do.
Yeah, what I wanted to do is go over the required findings that you must look at, and I'm gonna say that the development of the property in accordance with the proposed conditions will not materially endanger the public health or safety, based on the, site plan and the way that the, driveway and all has been laid out. I think that has been satisfied. I think that the development of the property is in accordance with the proposed conditions will not substantially enter the value of adjoining or abutting property. You've heard testimony from a certified real estate appraiser to that effect, so I think that one has also been satisfied. And you also have heard testimony that the location and character of the development in accordance with the proposed condition will be in harmony with the area in which it is located in general conformity with the plan of development of the county, and its environs. So I think all three of those have been satisfied, based on the testimony and the information, contained on the sheet that's, amendment to the rezoning application by Travis Payne.
Madam Chair, do we have a motion on that, or can I make one?
You may.
I'll make a motion that we approve the CU as outlined and read by Planning and Zoning Director Guy Corman.
Second.
With the amended
with
conditions.
the amended conditions that's outlined
30
of
employees.
Guy Corman. That way I don't have to read all of them at once.
Aye. All in favor?
Question for Guy. How did this go with planning and zoning? Zoning,
They were,
any objections?
no, they recommended 5-0.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Madam Clerk,
Thank you, Mr.
was that so noted as far as the employee?
Do you have something you wanted to say? You said, no.
We don't put that on the clicker.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, she said orally. All right. Next, we have text amendments to the zoning ordinance, Wilderness, North Carolina Incorporated. I declare the public hearing open. Mr. Cornman will introduce the application.
Yes.
Mr. Bolt, will you come forward and explain the request
Okay,
after?
you have a request by Wilderness, North Carolina Incorporated to amend the Davidson County zoning ordinance, Article 6, Section 6.02A, accessory residence to a commercial use within a single structure, to read accessory residence to a non-residential use within a single structure, and to amend Article 3, Section 3.08, Table of Permitted Uses, to allow an accessory residence to a non-residential use within a single structure to be located in the RC Rural Commercial, CS Community Shopping, the HC Highway Commercial, the LI Limited Industrial, the HI Heavy Industrial, the mixed use MXR Mixed Use Residential, the Mixed Use Commercial, and the planned employment commercial districts, and along with the associated development standards of each of those districts. We currently allow this type of residence to occur. Many of you are familiar with the QM Quality Mart locations. When those were first introduced to the county, local attorney R.B. Smith asked on behalf of the applicant at that time, could the county consider amending an ordinance to allow a overnight person to be on the property 24/7. So it was amended to allow this in the commercial districts, and we're simply now asking that this same opportunity be granted to our manufacturing and industrial districts to allow a night watchman or some other supervision overnight, and this is what this proposed text amendment is requesting.
So this has been going on for years, we just didn't have anything.
That's
in the
correct.
ordinance
Come on up.
My name's Ronnie Bolt. Appreciate y'all's time listening to me. I own the dry kill facilities out here on East 64. I live in Floyd County, Virginia, so 110 miles or so. Anyway, we do have employees that's there 24/7, watching security and boilers and all that type of stuff, you know. I do need to be able to stay on the property occasionally, myself and maybe some maintenance people, you know, people like that. So we do need to be able to stay over occasionally, and I mean, we're not setting up housekeeping there, you know, residents full time, but do need to be able to stay over. So that's.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak either in favor of or in opposition to this request? Mr. Hill?
Thank you.
Thank you. You can just go over there and we might call you back if we have any other questions.
The resolution on statement of consistency again gives February the 4th as the date of the public hearing, and it obviously is incorrect. The strategy on this one is to go beyond the subject property and expand the use category by substituting the adjective non-residential for the adjective commercial. That's good as far as it goes. But given the capacity of the human mind to invent new areas of endeavor that can't be anticipated, won't such an incremental strategy still condemn you to a future of constantly struggling to catch up? Mr. Bolt didn't know that he was in violation until the fire marshal informed him. When a man can't rest his bones within the confines of his own structure without fearing that he has joined the ranks of the lawless, hasn't government become too intrusive for anybody to the right of Bernie Sanders? Which brings me back to where I started during the public address. Subsection B as in Bravo of section 1.06 of Article 1 of your zoning ordinance. Read it for yourselves. What it says with regard to usage is that whatever is not expressly permitted is prohibited. How many requests like the ones tonight would you not have to hear if you simply reversed that presumption? I am in favor of the request.
Mr. Cornman, the staff recommendation?
Yes, we recommend approval of this, and we've incorporated some thoughts in your consistency statement that this will carry forth the idea of allowing for security at these manufacturing sites and so forth. So we feel like it's in the best interest.
So did this cost him anything to get these text amendments done?
He paid an application fee.
So why would he have to pay an application fee to get something that should have been in the text amendment already?
Because it's the procedure this board has set.
So he's just paid for everybody else that gets the...
Well, he certainly paid for his own benefit, but others may receive the
Receive the
benefit in
same
the future
benefit.
for that, yes.
Don't seem fair to me.
Doesn't me either. Because if one of us wants something changed, we can try to get it changed, but if somebody else wants it, they gotta pay for it.
Any further discussion? I declare the public hearing closed. May I have a motion and a second to either approve or deny this text amendment request?
I'll make a motion, we approve it.
I'll second that.
And to approve the statements and resolutions.
Oh, we just know that's already in there, Madam Clerk.
Cast
Can't sit
your
out there,
vote.
madam.
Cast your vote.
Guy, how much was the application fee for that?
$200.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry you had to pay that.
Thank you.
My what? My vote? I'm sorry,
Follow
my
me.
vote?
Oh, wait a minute, I've got it in, I'm sorry, Commissioner McCoy.
That's an advance payment, right, Guy? Guy, that's an advance payment, isn't it?
Yeah.
All of the votes are in,
Now I can get a 24-hour armed guard for free.
and that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
24 hours, you wouldn't be sleeping, you're not supposed to.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the road closure. The portion of the unnamed road in the Isle of Pines between Lot 61 and the office, lot accessible from Lake Shore Avenue. I'm gonna call on our attorney to take over.
Madam
Thank
Chair,
you.
as the board is aware, there was a petition which was filed by, Mr. Berg on behalf of the property owners who adjoin this lot. That has worked its way to consideration by this board. Last week, I was contacted by Attorney Peter O'Connell. Mr. O'Connell is here tonight, and he appears on behalf of the Isle of Pines Boat Ramp, Inc., which is objecting to the consideration by this board of that petition. Mr. O'Connell pointed out that there was a defect in the notice that is required by North Carolina General Statute 153A-241. When he spoke of that defect, I agreed with the concern that he had raised and took that to Mr. Berg and to Mr. Corman. And I think there has been a consensus that the matter is required to be continued until such time as the issue of notice has been perfected. Hopefully that during that period of time will also give us an opportunity to address some of the issues with regard to standing and as to whether notice has been given to all of the parties, and who are the necessary parties for this action. But those are not issues for consideration by this board tonight. In talking with council and in talking with our planning director, it has been proposed that given the length of the agenda, which is going to be before you next month, that this be continued until April 14. Mr. Corman, correct me if there's any...
And that will give time for renotice?
Yes. Yes. So that is the recommendation I have for the board. I would certainly invite my colleague if there was any additional thing that he needed to add to that.
No, that was it. To board, Peter O'Connell, I represent Isle of Pines Boat Ramp Incorporated. Mr. Fry, there's a correct statement of the events that have led up to today. And my client opposes the petition, but we do not oppose the removing from the agenda. We believe that's the appropriate step tonight, and April 14th would be acceptable.
Just for clarification, your client being the corporation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Isle of Pines Boat Ramp Incorporated. It's a North Carolina nonprofit corporation.
And what was the issue with the notice? I'm sorry?
You have to post it in two separate places, and we've only posted it at the roadside. I guess it should have been also posted over at the lake side as well.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy said it wasn't a long access, and it's wintertime, no boats out there, so he didn't put one up on the other side.
But it is a statutory requirement.
Yeah.
I got you. Thank you, sir.
May I have a motion and a second to continue the public hearing to April the 14th, 2020 at 6 p.m.?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Okay. Second. Have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
Guy, how did we miss that double notice requirement? How did we miss that?
I've been doing it for 35 years.
I know.
And,
that's how we learn, isn't it?
Yes, how we learn is first time, but
yeah.
When you look, it's not a long way there.
First time it's happened
Two
in
sides.
35 years, first time it's happened? Nah, we'll let you slide this time.
And all of the votes are in, and that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, Mr. Cornman. All right. Fellow commissioners, items for decision and information, the consent agenda. Are there any items that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda for discussion?
None requested to be removed.
Second.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please cast your vote.
Guy, when you advertise this properly, look how many people you're probably gonna have.
I know they're not too happy about that.
And it's all for that little piece of,
Thank you.
it's got a man's, septic tank on it.
7-0.
All right.
Septic tank.
So, let's
I
go.
believe most of them people were in opposition to that.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure they were. All right, let's take a look at deliberation tonight. We have several proclamations tonight. We're gonna start with Developmental Disability Awareness Month, and I'm gonna call on Commissioner Elliott to, read this proclamation.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you. It's an honor to be able to read this tonight. I appreciate
You're welcome.
you allowing me to do that. Thank you. So this is a proclamation for Developmental Disability Awareness Month for March 2020. Whereas the month of March 2020 has been designated as Developmental Disability Awareness Month to celebrate and recognize people with developmental disabilities. And whereas disability is a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the right of individuals with developmental disabilities to live independently, enjoy self-determination, to make choices, to contribute to society, to experience fully in the economic, political, social, cultural, and educational mainstream of the American society. And whereas family members, friends, and members of the community can play a central role in enhancing the lives of people with developmental disabilities, especially when the family and community are provided with the necessary support services and public and private employers are aware of the capabilities of people with developmental disabilities to be engaged in competitive work in inclusive settings. And whereas the goals of this community include providing individuals with developmental disabilities the opportunities and support to make informed choices and decisions, to live in homes and communities where individuals can exercise their full rights and responsibilities as citizens, pursue meaningful and productive lives, contribute to their family, community, state, and nation, and have independent friendships and relationships with others, and achieve full inclusion in society. Now, therefore, the Davidson County Board of Commissioners do hereby proclaim the month of March 2020 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month in Davidson County, North Carolina. And we urge all citizens to call this observance to the attention of all of our citizens this 25th day of February 2020.
Madam Chair, considering that a motion, I'll second that motion.
Amen.
We have Teresa McKinn with the ARC here to receive the proclamation. Would you like to?
Ms. Chairman?
Would you like to take it down to me once you read? That'd be all right with me?
Can we vote on it first?
Sure. I have a motion and a second. Could you all?
Do you want it verbally or
Verbally?
quicker?
Verbally?
Aye.
Aye.
He's gonna be a Baptist preacher.
Commissioners, thank you so much for having us with you. I'm very happy that this is probably one of the least controversial motions that you had to make this evening. So, I'm joined here this evening by several self-advocates. These are just 4 of individuals, approximately 1,600 in the county living with a developmental disability. We have Mandy, Sue, Teresa, and Jamie.
Come on up, we'll have a picture made with you, yeah.
Hold this up, really big, okay?
Three. One more. One, two, three. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
For coming. Yeah. The second proclamation tonight is for the 2020 March for Meals, and I chose this one because I do deliver Meals on Wheels. I enjoy doing it immensely. I appreciate that my mother receives it, Ron, and I would encourage, if there are any of you out there that could find an hour once a month to deliver to the elderly, it will warm your heart. So this one says, whereas on March 22nd, 1972, President Richard Nixon signed into law a measure that amended the Older Americans Act of 1965 and established a national nutrition program for seniors 60 years and older. Whereas Meals on Wheels America established the March for Wheels campaign in March of 2002 to recognize the historic month, the importance of the Older Americans Act nutrition programs, both congregate and home delivered, and raise awareness about the escalating problem of senior hunger in America. And whereas the 2020 observance of March for Meals celebrates 18 years of providing an opportunity to support Meals on Wheels programs that deliver vital and critical services by donating, volunteering, and raising awareness about senior hunger and especially isolation. Whereas Meals on Wheels programs, both congregate and home delivered in Davidson County, have served our communities admirably for more than 40 years. And whereas volunteers for Meals on Wheels programs in Davidson County are the backbone of the program, and they not only deliver nutritious meals to seniors and individuals with disabilities who are at significant risk of hunger and isolation, but also caring concern and attention to their welfare. Whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Davidson County provide nutritious meals to seniors throughout the Davidson County that help them maintain their health and independence, thereby preventing unnecessary falls, hospitalizations, and/or premature institutionalization. And whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Davidson County provide a powerful socialization opportunity for millions of seniors to help combat the negative health effects and economic consequences of loneliness and isolation. Whereas Meals on Wheels programs in Davidson County deserve recognition for the contributions they've made and will continue to make to local communities, our state, and our nation. Therefore, I, Karen Watford, as Chair of the Davidson County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim March 2020 as the 18th Annual March for Meals Month and urge every citizen to take this month to honor our Meals on Wheels programs, the seniors they serve, and the volunteers who care for them. Our recognition of and involvement in the National 2020 March for Wheels can enrich our entire community and help combat senior hunger and isolation in America. Dated this the 25th day of February, 2020.
Madam Chairman, discussion. Mr. County Attorney, if you look at the last line of there, the first line
Of the last paragraph.
of the last paragraph, I think it's improper. Only the board can make that decision. And it sets the precedent for other people who want to put forth resolutions. And I think it needs to read, now, the Board of Commissioners, hereby make that decision. Not one individual.
Oh. So you're suggesting that we change this?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
The way it reads.
one commissioner don't have the authority to do anything. It takes 4 out of the 7.
Well,
Mr. Shell, I think you could change it, but I think what the board is doing here is by adopting this proclamation is endorsing the chair's
Authority.
making the proclamation.
But there's nowhere, where is it in here where it says the Board of Commissioners hereby approve?
It's not in there.
The vote to approve it would be the approval.
I think would be that indication.
No, it doesn't to me. It doesn't signify that to me.
It may be a question.
If I wanna do proclamations and I put my name only in there, it sets a precedent that should not be set. The total, whatever this board decides to do should be the function of the board and not one individual. And that's not speaking against the Madam Chair.
And see,
That's, yeah,
I
used to-
didn't
that's probably the first time you saw that, you
yeah,
know.
I didn't request it as myself, so.
This was sent to us by Senior Services. I think it's
Okay.
just a form that
I think if the
that's on the
chairman
On the
template.
template that you
I make a motion that we
Madam Chairman, you
change
can
that
probably
last.
make an amendment to.
Yeah, let's just make an amendment, it's fine with me, let's make an amendment that it says, now therefore, the Davidson County Commissioners
That sounds good to
Okay.
me. Sounds
do
good to me.
hereby proclaim,
You know, just like
this,
the last one.
just like that.
And most of
And I
them
didn't think you
do
saw it.
that.
I
No,
didn't know
no,
when
I
to point
just
it out.
read it.
Yeah.
And,
as I
and I
receive.
I agree with what you said, Commissioner Shell, but I also agree that there's no tittle in my mind to think that Karen would ever do
Oh, yeah,
that.
no, I know
thank the
that.
staff and everything.
No, she
and-
works hard
yeah.
to go out with Meals on Wheels, and I'm not dismissing her contribution
I
at
think
all.
that
It's
just slipped through the
I
cracks
just don't
'cause
think
they
it's legal, I
normally
don't
do
think
have
it's
it
legal
on there.
because one commissioner don't have authority to do anything.
I enjoy watching, David Bovender show what he got on Meals for Wheels on Facebook. So keep
Yeah.
doing that, buddy, wherever you're at.
So we have a motion and a second, do we have a
We've
vote
got a
yet?
motion and a second.
With necessary change.
Aye, aye.
Or who made the motion in a second?
Let me just say this, though, with this form they've got, a municipality can do that.
A mayor has
That's
the
right.
authority to do that.
He's got the authority to do it, and that's probably the form they have.
And it could be.
A proclamation the mayor can do, but.
Could very well pull it from
But a
there.
resolution has got to be all 7 or all, ever how many.
Who made the motion?
One of, I did.
Yeah, well,
I did.
somebody made it, and somebody seconded it. I don't know who
Did you
made
make
it.
the second?
Second.
Okay.
Here,
All right,
Zach,
made
one
the
did.
second.
Just picking.
So we're ready for a vote now? Oh, you made it, Karen.
All those in favor, we've
Oh,
already started on that.
We got it. We got it.
And just so you know, this intrigued my memory, that I had an email for delivering Meals on Wheels. I'm good with that, and I just, so just let me know what day.
I appreciate what Madam Chair does. I know what she does.
Well, I would just,
Yeah.
I want everybody to, if you could figure out a way to do
Decent
it.
and
There
senior
are
services.
Many needs.
February
Amazing.
3rd email, I apologize for the late reply, but
And
Senior
let me
softball.
I get behind.
take the proclamation to Mr. Bowen.
My man.
Didn't get it right one to you.
I'm sorry.
Let's get up.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes, there has. I can remember lots of them. Actually fairly mild.
Good job, buddy.
Join you this year. I got my problems with that. The health problems.
Proclamation.
One more, the Social Work Month 2020 proclamation. Social workers, Generation Strong. Whereas the social workers profession is dedicated to enhancing the well-being of others and meeting the basic needs of all people, especially those who are vulnerable in our society. And whereas social workers embodied this year's social work theme, Social Work Generation Strong, embodies the needs to recognize the extraordinary contributions of the profession of our society. And whereas the social work profession is expected to grow faster than average over the next 7 years, with more than 777,000 people expected to be employed as social workers by 2028. And whereas the social workers elevate and empower people, giving them the ability to solve problems, cope with personal roadblocks, and get the resources they need to succeed. And whereas the social work profession is deeply woven into our society, with social workers active in government, school, universities, social service agencies, communities, corporations, the military, and in healthcare and mental health care settings. And whereas the social workers are present in times of crisis, helping people overcome issues such as abuse, neglect, death, and grief, and helping people and communities recover from natural disasters such as wildfires, floods, hurricanes. And whereas the social work profession has helped bring about some of the most profound positive changes in our society over the past century, including voting rights, improved workplace safety, minimum wage, social safety net programs, and help prevent poverty and hunger. Whereas social workers continue to engage and bring together individual communities, agencies, and government to help society solve some of the most pressing issues of the day, and have pushed for decades to ensure rights for all. Now, therefore, in recognition of the numerous contributions made by social workers, the Davis County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim March 2020 as Social Work Month in celebration and support of the social work profession. Upon a voting of the board, we will approve this proclamation.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Do. I have a second by Mr. Toole. Cast your vote. And I'd like to invite our new DSS Director, Trish Baker, to join Mr. Yates.
And all of those votes are in,
And Scott Craver.
and that motion carries 7-0.
Karen, you want to
Go
come on
down there
down
with
as
you.
well?
Mr. Craver, how you, sir? You come over one, I'll come over one.
If it didn't work out.
I've only been on this board a short period of time, and social workers really, you just wouldn't believe what they have to go through. So this is a well-earned proclamation, and please share this with your staff.
One, two, three. More, 1, 2.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we've got something exciting to do next. We have an appointment to the Yadkin River Park Steering Committee. Mr. Cornman, would you like to help me with this? Okay.
Tell me it's not the guy on the front row right here, will you? Oh, it's her, okay, I'm good with it.
Okay, go.
As you know, our steering committee has been meeting since November without a chairman since Dr. Walser stepped down due to health reasons. But we were fortunate in recruiting Mr. Paul Mitchell from Lick Creek, to be able to, step up to the plate. And, as you know, there's history in Mr. Mitchell's DNA and has a lot of local family history here. And, I think with his, military background and his, leadership, that he has, shown through his career, as an attorney for both, Denton and Thomasville, I think he'll be able to lead our steering committee to great things. And, we're getting ready to have a retreat and workshop in March, so we're glad to have him coming on board at an important time. So, I hope you'll consider making him our chairman and appointing him to the steering committee for the Yadkin River Park Steering Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Cornman. May I have a motion and a second to appoint?
Make a motion, we approve the appointment, Madam Chair?
It'll be both for the Yadkin River Park Steering Committee and as its new chair.
I'll make a second.
Do I have a second? Please cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Paul, would you like to say anything? I mean, we really,
I'll be brief. I've been to hundreds of meetings since 1984. My challenge is to keep the progress rolling along. I visited a meeting of the committee 2 years ago, and I was astonished to see 3 commissioners on the committee. And I thought right then, this cannot fail because the commission, the Board of Commissioners, has expressed their complete support. You couldn't have done it anymore. All 7 were at the meeting. So I said I had great friends in my application, and that is certainly the truth. Those people are on the committee because of their talent and their industry, and the people they represent, and I look forward to working with y'all and especially your fine staff. Thank you.
Good job.
I failed to mention that Paul was one of the original folks that went down to Raleigh, when we went down to talk to the state about the Wilcox Bridge. He was part of that original group, so.
Know to Paul for a pretty good while, and I want you to know that as a citizen, I appreciate the work that you put in as far as studying our history and the love you have for this county that we all love as well.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to it.
I wanted to mention, you just added a bunch of talent to that committee, so thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Y'all
See
wanna
you,
come
sir.
up? Come on. We appreciate, won't you let us shake your hand? Thank you. Thank you for coming, Vicki.
He really wants to shake ours.
Thank y'all so much. I'd like to call our Health Director, Lillian Kuntz, to the podium. She's gonna give us a coronavirus update.
Good evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having me this evening. I see the hand sanitizer, so timely for my presentation. I appreciate y'all having me tonight. I'm here to speak with you about the coronavirus. In case you haven't turned on your television, this might be new, but for those of you who have been watching TV, I'm sure you've seen a lot about it. The coronavirus is an emerging, rapidly evolving situation, and the CDC is providing updated information and guidance as it is available. It started out as the novel coronavirus because it was very new to us, but they've now changed the name to coronavirus disease 19. And what that means is the disease was established in 2019, so they're calling it COVID-19, just to kind of shorten it up. So that's how I'll refer to it as we go through. The picture is what the virus actually looks like under a microscope, so that is what we're dealing with. So there are 7 types of coronaviruses that affect humans. 4 of them are common, and they cause a few milder conditions, but the 3 that are very difficult for us to deal with are called MERS, SARS, and COVID-19. Y'all may remember MERS and SARS from a few years ago, so this is in the same family. The majority of COVID-19 has been in mainland China. However, South Korea is now reporting an alarming rate of cases. They're close to 1,000, and they saw a 45% increase over one day. So it is emerging rapidly. COVID-19 has been declared a public health emergency, but they have not yet defined it as a pandemic. I don't know what that threshold is, but right now we're still calling it a public health emergency. The most recent public health emergencies that you may remember are Ebola from 2019, Zika in 2016, and again, Ebola in 2014. So what does it look like for people that are sick? They get a fever, cough, shortness of breath.
Oh, God, I'm a goner.
I had that this week.
I'm a goner.
There's also some other case definitions that involve that. If you've been to China, then we probably really should talk, but if you haven't, then hopefully you're not infected with COVID-19. So what is the United States doing about this? We know it happened in China and began there, and we all know that people are moving around, so what are they trying to do? What they are trying to do is monitor, first and foremost, people leaving China or people that have been to China and where they're going. Travelers who were in mainland China in the last 14 days are going to 11 airports in the United States. Thankfully, none of those are in North Carolina, so we're kind of missing that one. Travelers who come in, they're going under a risk assessment. You may have seen this on the news. They're coming in, looking at them with thermometers, talking with them to see if they are symptomatic. Symptomatic means that they have a fever or they have that respiratory illness that we've been talking about. Asymptomatic travelers mean that they've been in China, but they're not expressing any symptoms. So we're not sure if they're sick, but they could become sick. So we have to monitor them for 14 days at home. That's done by your local public health department. So any jurisdiction that has an asymptomatic traveler, that jurisdiction's health department will get a phone call. They'll let them know who they are, and they will make sure that they get in contact with them. It will then be the responsibility of the public health department to ensure that they have thermometers for taking their own temperature. If they don't have thermometers, in Davidson County, we will provide them for them, and we will talk with them twice a day to make sure that they don't have a fever. If they do get a fever, then we start considering testing for them. This is what the CDC is distributing to let people know there is a health alert, there's an outbreak of a respiratory illness, and they kind of talk about how they're responding and what they're looking for, what the temperature would be, and how to monitor that daily. So, because we don't have a case in Davidson County and North Carolina does not have any positive cases, where we are right now is just trying to stay prepared. So we are taking locally at the health department direction from the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, and they're taking direction from the CDC. We are a part of weekly calls with the CDC and the state of North Carolina public health officials.
Lillian, do you know the closest cases that we have to this area?
No, sir, I do not. They have, I was in Raleigh last week for my state health directors meeting, and the state medical director talked with us about it, and she said they're trying really hard to keep media coverage to a low because they don't want people to be afraid to report if they're ill because of the media scrutiny.
Right.
So there's that balance of, yes, we want to know where it's going on, but we also don't want to discourage people from seeking the care that they need.
I got a quick question. Can anybody travel from mainland China to the United States if they have no symptoms? Or does everybody from mainland China have to fly into the designated airports?
They all have to come into the designated airports where they're screened.
Now, I've read yesterday that some of them are going around the system and still flying into other airports in the United States. I just read that last night, that
Oh, goodness.
there's some work in the system.
Yeah, I saw that too.
I have not seen that.
I want nobody flying in.
So I guess my question is, if you go somewhere, and just an example, Disney World or, somewhere like that, how do you keep from, there's gotta be lots of people flying from mainland China into New York City, or what's the answer?
They go to 11 different designated airports.
I know New York City, I think, is one of them,
I believe so. I don't have that list of 11 in front of me, but
and I think Atlanta, but again, they may not have the symptoms.
correct. So those people would be under what they call active monitoring. Asymptomatic folks are still considered part of the case definition even when they're not sick because they've been on mainland China. So they are required to do that
Under
two-week monitoring.
watch.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So after 2 weeks, you monitor them for 2 weeks if they're here.
And if they don't get sick, then they are no longer considered a potential coronavirus case after 2 weeks.
I got a big convention I'm supposed to go to in like 2 weeks, and they're already sending out emails of concerns of people flying in from.
Is it in China?
No, it's here, but they have a lot of visitors from China that come to this convention, so.
Right. I'm gonna touch on something a little bit alarming about that in just.
So you leave, you ain't coming back.
Tell me the alarms, 'cause I think people are trying to decide now whether they
Whether or
wanna-
not to go.
It's an international convention, so.
Well, right now, it is still, like I said, rapidly emerging. We are, in Davidson County, kind of like tertiary on this. We're getting it from the CDC, via the state and then down to us. But we are trying to pump that information out as quickly as we can. The Department of Health and Human Services does have these websites, and I apologize, y'all did not get these slides ahead of time, but because it's changing so quickly, I prepared this at the last minute and gave it to Debbie, but she has it now, so if y'all want the slides, you can have them where it has all of this information. There's a 24/7 epidemiology on-call number at the state. That's for providers. If someone shows up at the hospital and they realize, oh no, as y'all said, people may come in outside of that 11 airport system. Where there's a will, there's a way. But providers have received updates. They know what to be looking for. They know the questions to ask. So if they come in contact with someone who is not on the radar, they can call this 24/7 epidemiology line and get someone to speak with. This is just the website. I just wanted y'all to see this, so in case you were looking, this is what the website looks like, and this is where the up-to-date information is from the state of North Carolina. The State Public Lab is running the specimens through their lab, and I just wanted to share this website with y'all also. And I want to tell y'all a little bit more about what the Davidson County response team looks like. At our health department, we have 2 communicable disease nurse staff members. They do a lot of things, but right now they are pretty much on call, and they are all aware of that and understand. Keep their phone close by and not on silent. Our Director of Nursing, Mary Lou Collett, has been on top of this. She is on the calls. She is making sure we have the information. She's pumping the information to our Public Information Officer, who is providing it to our local providers, the hospitals, the physicians that are in Davidson County, so they know what they're looking for. And then our Preparedness Coordinator. Part of her job, Summers, is to make sure that we are planning and prepared. That's where we work with EMS on what happens if it does show up in Davidson County and how we move forward with that.
Is part of your plan,
Go ahead. No, you
is
go.
part of your plan, a preparedness for, and I'm not asking you what it is here.
Yes, sir.
Is it to alert the public if we discover we have a problem, how to do that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The thing is, this is a communicable disease. So if it does show up in Davidson County, and we are aware of it, first and foremost, when we want to make sure that we're isolating folks who are sick and talking with them about that. But as it becomes a bigger issue, then that's when we start talking with our community about what they need to do. Again, the best way to go about this, anyone who's sick should stay home. One of the interesting things about this disease is it has the same mitigation as the flu. Wash your hands. Don't put your hands in your mouth. Don't put your hands in your eyes. Cover your sneezes and cough. The same thing we're trying to tell people about the flu. That is how it's spread, the same way that the flu is spread.
Lillian, are you notifying the schools systems of issues as well?
We, at the Davidson County Health Department, we employ school nurses, and they're in the school system, so
Okay.
they're part of our team, and they're aware of it. And also, just so y'all know, all of our schools, if any of them have a greater than 10% absentee rate, we're alerted at the health department, so we're able to track communicable diseases that way too.
The other question I had is, what is the incubation period well, not incubation period, because I guess that's 14 days. But if you contract it, like the flu's normally, 7 to 14 days, how long is this virus?
Not come out with that information yet, and I think it's just because it's so new, that they haven't had enough cases and studies to be able to determine it. Because, unfortunately, a lot of people are dying from this too, so
Right.
those people don't get well, so then they're not included in the data on how
Mhm.
long it takes to recover from this.
Okay, all right. And the ones that are passing away, is there any data as far as like their health? Like if somebody that's healthy, are they more likely to survive from this?
Again, they have not released that information. That is something we all would really like to know, like who is the at-risk population. With the flu, I think we all know that it's, people with low immune systems, elderly, extremely young. Those are the higher risk for dying from the flu. But I'm not able to speak on that for the coronavirus because they have just not let us know
Oh, they're
that.
just still trying to get their grip around this.
Yes,
thing.
sir,
This
they
is-
are. They are.
This is something else, so.
Miss Lillian, the Preparedness Coordinator, that's that new position.
No, sir.
It's
That's
not-
what I used to do at the health department.
I mean, I thought it was. No, you're fine. I didn't know if that position would have anything with getting information out, 'cause
If coronavirus comes to Davidson County, your public health department will be all hands on deck.
All hands on deck, yeah.
People that,
Yeah.
we will use our food and lodging staff, our on-site, everybody will be making sure that we disseminate this information.
One of the things that they said that this can, very easily spread to pneumonia.
Yes, sir.
Become pneumonia. And they urge people, even if they've been released from the 14 days, that, up to a month, if you develop those symptoms, you should go immediately to your doctor. And because, especially with older folks, they develop pneumonia, it's a very dangerous thing.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. One of the things that I wanted to make y'all aware of that, has sort of red flagged me as your local public health director is, we are a contiguous county to Guilford County. And at the end of April, Guilford County has a very, very large event, and a lot of people come from other countries, the furniture market. So, I'm already in conversation with local health directors in our area, and we are, making plans to get on calls with the state about making sure we know these travelers are coming. Like Commissioner Yates just said, with these conferences, people come, they look forward to it all year, they don't feel bad, so they're gonna hop on a plane, but we want to make sure we are as prepared as possible. Very different when, we're talking about travelers now, the majority of folks are coming home. So we have an address and we know where they're going. This is gonna really rely on the influx system at the airports. Where are they going? Once they get here, what hotels are they going to? Are they renting homes in certain communities? How do we do that monitoring? So, I just want you to know we're on top of it, and we are as on top of it as we can be, and we're planning for that.
Problems is, when it gets to the airports, it's over then, because it gets spread.
Oh, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Once it gets inside the airports.
If someone does come over sick, it's in an airplane too. I mean, you're in a closed system there. So I just wanted to make y'all aware of that, and we are mindful of that event coming up, and we are taking those plans, seriously. The last thing that I have for y'all, again, is just a reminder on how we don't spread the coronavirus. Same thing as the flu, and we are just hopeful that it continues to have a zero caseload in North Carolina, but until then, we are gonna be as prepared as we possibly can be.
I think the president just asked for $230, billion dollars
It was a
for
lot.
this.
Well, you know, it's just one of those things. It was like when Ebola came out. I hate to compare the two because they're very different diseases, but it is something that no one was expecting. It started small, and then they realized it was spreading like wildfire, and what do we need to do to contain it? And, you know, this is one of the things that we train for in public health. This is what we do. This is part of what we pride ourselves on, is being prepared for this. But at the same time, it's very hard to be prepared for the unknown, so.
And I've heard a lot of people talk about, well, they have a cure. I've heard somebody that was, you know, they got better or whatever like that. We're not even nowhere near to having anything like that, right?
Last week in Raleigh, when I was there for the state health directors meeting, our state medical director, Dr. Betsy Tilson, spoke that she knew that there were trials underway. One of the trials that one of my local health director colleagues had heard about was combining HIV antivirals with the Tamiflu, and that he had heard that there was some success with that, but the state health director was unable to confirm that.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate your time.
Scary, you know.
It is.
Stock market, and the president's asking for $230 billion, something's pretty serious.
Yeah.
All right. Last but not least, Casey was gonna lead this off with us tonight. We have a memorandum of agreement with St. Stephen United Methodist Church and First Baptist Church in Lexington, North Carolina.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I go to that, I want to thank Lillian for what she just
I
did.
do too.
It's a tough topic to come up and just kind of talk about on the fly when there's so much information out there, and she's right, it's changing by the minute. So for her to be able to pull this off and at least give you some context, I think is impressive, so I just want to give her a shout out. I'm going to ask Ray Howe, Rosa Terry, and Arnetta Beverly, please, if they can come to the podium, if they wouldn't mind. Arnetta Beverly is pastor at St. Stephen's United Methodist Church. Ray Howe is the pastor at First Baptist Church. Rosa Terry is a citizen of Davidson County, works for our local district court, and she's just me, as she said. These folks approached me, I guess right before Christmas maybe, about putting a civil rights remembrance statue, if you will, on our local, a little small plot of land up there at our square. I'm going to give you the logistics, the technicals of what you got before you. I'm going to let these folks speak on the whys and what they were trying to do. You have before you a license agreement Chuck drafted that gives the right to actually use a small plot of land. And what we're looking at, I don't have a map in front of me, I can just do it with my hands. If you're standing in front of Conrad Hinkle with your back to Main Street, it's to the right there. There's a little circle plot still of open land right between the sidewalk right there. That would probably be a nice place for this to fit. Across from that is the tourism kiosk, if you're standing to your left. And this statue, and I'll go through the drawings here in just a second, probably looking at a 3x3 base, no taller than probably about 9 foot. Very similar to the one at the Lexington Police Department. Ironically enough, the kiosk, however, is almost about 8 or 9 foot as well. So symmetrically, it'll kind of look nice in the square. That's for the license. You also have a memorandum of understanding agreement that's attached to this. This is for the two churches have agreed to maintain the statue. They are paying for the statue. They're also agreeing to insure the statue and indemnify the county from any liability. The last piece, and I will let them go through this part of it with you here, you have in your packet, you've got a list of what I think is 8, what I call fact sheets. And I won't read those. If you've got any questions, I'll let you've got them with you. They're very specific to local civil rights actions. They're not so much global. They're very specific to Davidson County. These would be right now we're in the designing kind of stages of this, but these would be across the bottom of the base, maybe 2 to each side on 4 squares. Obviously, you got 8, and then you have a basic rendering there of what the statue could look like. There's been a variety of discussions about this over the winter about how to make this look. But what we've kind of settled on is these are just 2 generic children, one African American, one Caucasian. And I'm sorry it cropped. I believe it's a dove floating there that they're kind of whisking away, if you will. There's even been discussions about adding more children, perhaps of different ethnicities, maybe an Asian child and a Latino child. But I'll let Ray get into that. And then maybe perhaps at the bottom a protective kind of fencing around that base. Again, much similar to the one at the Lexington PD. That's all the technical parts of this. They're here to kind of talk about anything you want to talk about with them about the statue itself and kind of the factoids and things like that.
I got just one question before they start. If you recall, maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago, Uptown Lexington talked about that piece of the square there in front of Connor and Hinkle. Will this affect that?
No, I spoke to Rebecca. She gave me a rendering of what she's trying to do, and it's changing as well based upon availability of funding. But what she's sitting on today is, if you're standing there facing Conrad Hinkle, you've got the big circle of grass. That could potentially one day be a map of the county with 4 corners having some type of memorial. One being, I think, a Daniel Boone memorial. One is the existing officer memorial, the fallen officers memorial that this board kind of, we talked about several years ago about doing. That would occupy one corner. I think one of the monuments that's already up at the square would occupy one of the others. That leaves a 4th one that she just allowed me to, you pick a corner and I'll move around you. And so this one here would be more toward facing Main Street. But no, it doesn't get in the way, to answer your question. I think what is being asked of the board tonight is to approve the memorandum of understanding, and also grant the license for the use of the small plot of land underneath the base of the statue. Sorry, yeah. And they're here for any questions. These folks become friends of mine now. We've gotten to know each other very well, so had a good time here. And but I hope they hadn't proceeded this be too painful. But putting up with me, I know that's a hassle. So
before they start speaking, I would like to share with the board that the 2 ladies, I've known Reverend Howe for a long time too, but these 2 ladies right here were my sisters in crime many years ago. and anytime, and if there's anybody in this world that's going to speak the truth to you, it's going to be these 2 ladies here. Because they have my total respect and my love for them today. It's as great as it was way back then too.
Arnetta used to work for the sheriff's office.
Yes, she did.
Ago, so
Zero.
A lot of good stories about the old days.
I didn't know Arnetta's name for 5 years.
Very pleasant person to work with, both of them.
Sounds good to me.
If y'all have any questions, I mean, they're here again. If we get, I guess, at this point, I'll let you go. If they want to grant this tonight, you go on with the drawings. If you've got something you want to send us, it becomes kind of the final. I don't know if this is where you end up landing, but I think everybody would probably enjoy seeing kind of what the end outcome. But you've got the sense of what's going to be.
And we definitely would. My name is Rosa Terry. No, I'm not a pastor. But these 2 behind me are, and without their involvement and without their help, none of this would have been possible. Of course, we all know that St. Stephen's is the oldest African-American church in Lexington in Davidson County. And of course, First Baptist on 3rd Avenue is our brother and sisters in Christ. Without them, without these 2 churches, none of this would have come to fruition. is because of their thoughts of trying to bring the community together in unity, that we even came up with this idea in the first place. So we want to say to Casey, you know, hopefully we haven't worried him too bad. His head hadn't gotten as gray as mine, so I think we probably haven't yet gotten to him. But we want to thank him and the whole staff for all of their work in helping us to work out the language, the memorandum of understanding, helping us to get a location that could be feasible to the whole community. We wouldn't have been able to do it, but we know the final vote lies with you up here on this dais. And we want to thank you all for your trust in us. Thank you for believing in us. Thank you for having Davidson County and Lexington at heart. We feel like this is going to be one way that we can show not only Davidson County, not only Lexington City, not only the state of North Carolina, but the entire world, that it is possible to come together and work together. And we want to thank you all for having that faith in us and giving us this opportunity to show that as a county, as a city, as a county, we are all willing to come together as we're looking for that monument to show, with the children embracing their hands and moving forward in unity and love and support. And I'm going to let Reverend Beverly and Reverend Howell have their remarks.
Be hard to follow.
Amen. That's what I'm about to say. Hey.
Hard to follow.
Come on now.
Our text this evening comes from, give a preacher a microphone. I really would appreciate your help and support of this so that we can really show that Lexington and Davidson County is coming out of the past into the future, and children will lead us to where we should be. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. Amen.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, thank you, and fellow commissioners. I too want to thank our county manager and county attorney, because they've done a tremendous amount of work, and we're grateful. Every year at the opening session of Leadership Davidson County, I have the privilege of talking about Davidson County history. And one of the things I tell them is, in 1929, the Davidson County Public Library became the first public library, not in North Carolina, but throughout the whole South, to offer library services to everyone regardless of race. Last week, I read an article about the first African American in Atlanta to get a library card. The year was 1959.
Wow.
We were doing this in 1929 for the whole population. That's something that our people need to know, and we need to celebrate. The bottom line is, we really believe that the heartbeat of Davidson County is one of unity and reconciliation and redemption and trust and equality. And that's what this is all about. We're celebrating a redemptive process, and we're looking to a future, a bright future of hope and promise.
Amen.
Amen.
Madam Chairman, could I say something?
You certainly might.
I'm gonna have to say something either way, but yeah, I just wanted to ask. But you know, as a Christian, I believe that Eve is the mother of all the living. And when I say that, I mean that. When I look out amongst the individuals that are here tonight, I see my brothers and my sisters in Christ, whether that's their foundation or not, it's mine. Dr. Martin Luther King said, in the end, you will not remember the words of your enemies, but the silence of your friends. I believe in the civil rights of all human beings. I love this. I love the fact that my children can grow up knowing that, hey, listen, you might see a difference in skin color, but we all bleed red. We all love the same, we all hurt the same. We don't always all get the same starting line. Everybody starts from a different situation. But the fact that y'all have gotten this together, that your church groups have prayed over this and have asked for this, for unity, for our community, this is huge. 115,000% and behind it all the way. It's just one thing that I ask. I ask that somewhere on this plaque, that your church's names and your name is somewhere on this. I just feel like, you know, and doesn't matter if it's the county manager, or if it's the county or whatever like that. Just, this is a momentous moment right here for the future of Davidson County, and I'm excited. I felt like, you know, y'all have done a tremendous job. I've read through some of these I didn't even know, and you talking about that in 1929 has just got me excited again. So thank y'all for what y'all have done. So I relinquish my time.
Thank you.
I'd like to have,
I can start again, brother.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask a question of Rosa or somebody. What's your time, span on this, time limit? When you plan on?
We are right now still working on exactly what the statute is going to look like. As Casey stated, we're actually looking at having 4 children on it. We're working with, Mr. Holton on that, and having 4 children. And along the base of the, statute will be where the plaques are, that lists the events. And we're gonna try to have as many of them as possible that we can get around the base of the statute. I think we're pretty much in agreement with what we're looking for on those plaques, which you have a list of. But we're gonna be trying to get as many as we can around the base of the statute. And so hopefully, we're talking in less than a year, at the most, that we will be
fantastic
at completion with this.
Good. Madam Chair, I know you'll want to speak to this. I just want to, you know, Arnetta, I hear so much and read so much. I had no idea until I read this a while back that you were the first elected African-American city council person in 1987. I forgot that. I remember when you were, I just had forgotten it. And it's something, and Commissioner Elliott talked about the beginning, and you're absolutely right. But I'm going to tell you, according to my faith, and this is the way I believe, everybody don't have to believe like I believe, but according to my faith, when we stand before the throne of judgment for Almighty God, creator of all, there won't be no wallet in our pocket, and there won't be no color to our skin. That's how I believe, and I believe Jesus didn't see that, and I think there'll come a time when we don't have to see that.
Come on, brother.
We're one people, united for the right cause. And I want to thank you guys for what you do.
I do appreciate this very much. Casey came to me, and there was no doubt in my mind that this was a fabulous idea, and I look forward to it. Thank you for this information. Much of it is new to me, and I love to be more educated. Thank you all.
Chair, can I say one last thing? I want to thank Rosa. She started with these facts and gave them to me, but I got to thank Debbie and Chuck both. Debbie helped me. I actually found them all myself too, at verifying things, because I wanted it to be right. Whatever you stick up there, I don't want somebody to walk over and say, "Oh, I just Googled this and it didn't happen." So it's all there. But Chuck's, got to thank him as well. He spent a lot of time on these agreements, so we went back and forth, and it takes time to get all this stuff together. So I think we've crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's.
Okay.
To me, the cooperative effort between our staff and these folks here, it's a miracle. It's amazing. It had divine intervention.
They have been great. We don't know what we would have done without. There were a couple of times when I was ready to just say, "Oh, you know what?" But they were always there. We're getting it. We're almost there. We've about got it all worked out. So like I said, without them, we would not have been to this point to where we are right now. So we appreciate it.
And also, I would like to thank our library staff.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to teach the folks at the Department of Cultural Resources some things.
Oh, wow.
Because they did not have some of the information that our library staff has. So it was incredible, and the school system pointed me out to Mr. Owen, And he was invaluable with some of the information. He is just a trove of information on history. It was enlightening to speak with him on the phone.
Commissioner McClure would like to address you.
Yeah, I like the idea, behind your statue of leading into the future. I'm the only commissioner here that had the dubious, duty of going to the Jerry Springer show and appearing, because of some, statements made by KKK.
I remember that show very well.
Like they say with Virginia Slim, we've come a long way. But the idea of going into the future is what we need to do.
Amen. Amen, Fred.
You was on Jerry Springer?
Didn't know that either. I'm in shock right now, I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, Lord.
I am too.
Wasn't just
Lord,
me,
take
it
the
was-
wheel.
It was,
Madam Chair, are you ready for a motion?
Are we ready? Are you ready for a motion? We are?
You ready
Do
for
I
a
have a motion?
A motion we approve the lease agreements and move forward with the placement of the statute.
I second
Is that how you want it?
Resolution as well.
The resolution and, right.
The licensing.
And I second that.
And I've got 2 seconds over here.
okay.
Amen.
Hopefully I'll hit S and one of them will show up.
Cast your vote.
All of the votes are in. And that motion carries 7-0.
Motion adjourned, Mr. Chairman.
Second, all in favor?
You don't get to work.
We're ready for